So let's start with refute and what it means to refute, because you know, as you there's something outside the window. It's like some sort of fly sign. I'm not sure. But as we begin to see the division amongst people, and you might have certain things like flat earthers, round earthers. You might have atheists, and you have those that are theists, that are thesis or believe in God, and you have physicists and religious people. They tend to refute each other, and these are things that in this reality has created friction between people. And we tend to have the necessity to want to be right and to prove others wrong. And I recently saw this female, and she was trying to refute or discredit religious people, primarily Christians. And because she may have a misunderstanding of the Bible, or maybe the Word of God, and that may make her, or make anybody for that matter, want to prove the people that are in a particular religion wrong. And even with science in their investigation of the natural realm, which would allow them to delve into the supernatural realm, because it's going beyond the physical world that they are in right now. So they tend to step outside of that and go into the beyond natural, when you're dealing with space and you're dealing with other planets and other elements that you can't see, or that is not directly in your visibility. You're dealing with something beyond the physics, or the physical world. When you're talking about space exploration and other planets and other galaxies and stuff like that, you're going beyond this physical or this natural world and going into a supernatural world. So so we wanted to talk about the word refute and what it actually means. And as a verb, it is to disprove, to rebut. This is where you have rebuttal and stuff like that. And or reject, to contradict, to deny, to reject. And it's to prove a statement or theory to be wrong or false, to disprove, to disprove, or to prove that someone is wrong. The voice challenging his audience to rise and refute him, like, I dare you prove me wrong. To deny or contradict a statement or accusation. A spokesman totally refuted the allegations of bias. So these are just this is just a definition of what it means to refute. And one thing that caught my attention was the statement that was stated about a digital God. And you wanted to prove that there could not be a digital God, when you have an understanding that God is all-knowing and all-seeing. So what that created for me was an area to see that, a lot of things that exist in the spiritual world has manifested itself in the physical world. When we have things like Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, these things come from an idea that has already existed. And because it already existed, we were able to make that manifest in the physical world. And stories that you heard, God provided the Egyptians, the Hebrews, or the Israelites manna from the sky. That was a form of supplying them with substance that came from, some place that they had not, they didn't know where it came from. It was just provided for them. And it was a way for God to send certain things and for you to receive certain things. So, that is a way for us to look at, how we are receptive to either something being transferred to you or delivered to you from, just out of the sky. It's biblical. It's stated. So with that, you would go into the all-knowing and all-seeing, aspect of God. So again, this is an AI overview. And when you're talking about a digital God, you're talking about an advanced, all-knowing and all-seeing God. It's something that that you want to expound on, because there's a way to interpret things and there's a way to misinterpret things. And one of the things that we do as man, we do misinterpret things, and we form our own understanding, which could be a misunderstanding of things, and have a form of miscommunicating those things. So here's the phrase, God knows all and sees all, signifies God's omniscient and his ability to know everything, and omnipresence, or his presence everywhere. It emphasizes God's perfect understanding of all things and his constant awareness of everything happening in the universe, including the thoughts, actions, and intentions of individuals. So this is what it means to have the ability to be all-knowing and all-seeing. And with that, we are, made in the image of God, with the ability to know things and also see things. But our intelligence isn't as advanced. When you're thinking about God, this is just the title that we give something that is far beyond the scope of human understanding. So it is something that it supersedes us, probably by who knows. And that's the problem with science and religion. We have a point of where things begin, because this is what we understand about, or want to understand about, our existence, in the beginning of our existence. So you have religion that explains that, and you also have science that explains that, or try to explain it in the best detail they can, the best way that they can. And this creates friction between the two, because one believe that they come from evolution, a big bang, and the others may believe that we were fashioned after or by the design of God, and you know, we have to understand that, you know, if God is intelligent, you know, God is a form of understandable, you something that you can't, intelligence that's not understandable, you know, by mankind. And we also have the ability to have an intelligence that's not understandable. And this is a way that you are fashioned after God, by having the ability to know things and to put things into action. And then you have the theory that, you know, everything started from a Big Bang, the Big Bang theory, where an explosion created super beyond advanced intelligence, which, you know, that is something that, you know, that can be argued, because, you know, where does our intelligence come from? And we are super intelligent to the point where we are creating super intelligent technology, and that advanced technology is our idea and our understanding of what intelligence is. So you'll see that, you know, there's a perfect understanding of all things, constant awareness of everything happening, including thoughts, actions, and intentions of individuals. So that is something that you have to think, that, you know, you have to understand. You have to understand how you know, magnificent of an understanding that is, to know the thoughts and intentions, you know, of an individual, but not just an individual, all individuals alike, you know. And that is, you know, the magnitude of what our understanding of God is. You know, God is everywhere at the same time. You know, it knows everything and has a perfect working of knowledge. And, you know, we've heard statements, you know, I spoke about it before, that, you know, they're going to create a digital God, and this digital God will be fashioned after the invisible, all-knowing, and all understanding God. And, you know, that's kind of, you know, it says right here in Proverbs 15 verse 3, that God sees all and knows all is utterly terrifying. You know, it's a terrifying thing that God has that ability to know all and see all, you know. So with that, artificial intelligence is going to be a replica of that knowledge and that understanding. But where will it come from, and how will it have the ability to, you know all and see all? And we are not aware that, you know, this technology already exists. And as we speak, I am using that technology right now. And it's not, you know, a bad thing that I'm using it. It's actually, you know, representative of how we are able to use advanced technology in order to, you know, give certain insight. And because it's actually man-made, and it's not perfect. And that's the thing about AI. I've seen, many mistakes that it has made, even in spelling, even in giving out false information. One episode of Seinfeld, it discusses Seinfeld being engaged, and AI said that Seinfeld was never engaged on this show, but he actually was, which was kind of misleading. So, the idea is to not be misleading when given information, especially for AI. If it's to be fashioned after a all-knowing and all-seeing God, it can't be misleading. So it has to have a source of valid and absolute knowledge and information. What's going on, dog? And that's just one account. I've also caught inconsistencies and just spelling in general. Just spelling in general. Come on, dog. Come on, come on. And with them spelling certain things wrong, and just capturing that and relaying it to people that's seeking information, especially valid information, that is kind of misleading, especially if you are not aware of the actual spelling of it. You would say, oh, AI, which is at artificial intelligence, is supposed to give me accurate information, and it's not supposed to be misleading. Hey, I was misled. So it is not going to replace ever all-knowing and all-seeing God. It's not. Because like I said, God's intelligence is far beyond the scope of mankind. Mankind has, as of yet, arise to the level of understanding of God. This is why you have, people that are prophetic and have the ability to tap into the knowledge of God, and God gives them insight and wisdom that exceed the understanding of just the common man, because of their ability to receive and be receptive to the wisdom and knowledge of God. That's what what encompasses the ability to prophesy and see certain things, is their ability to tap into that knowledge that God is, which is, like I said, it's beyond advanced tech. It's beyond, like, beyond advanced intelligence, which artificial intelligence will be based on. And if there is to be a digital God, there has to be a digital soul. And a digital soul is, what our thoughts, our feelings, and our preferences are comprised of. And you would know what cookies are. Cookies, when you accept cookies, you are accepting your preferences, your thoughts, your ideas, and everything that you do in the digital world to be recorded. And that is a way for an advanced technology to embody or to capture, an individual's thoughts, like it says here, including thoughts, actions, and attentions of an individual. That is how advanced or artificial intelligence is created, through the creation. Come on, dog. Come on. Come on, dog. Through the creation of, come on, bruh. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on, dog. All right. Cat, man. It's created through, gathering of, personal ideas, personal thoughts, and your actions that's on in a digital environment. So you're seeing that play out right now, and I've gave people the ability to understand how AI will be leading them if they are not leading AI. And I believe in it's even captured on a short, on one of my short videos. I gave you that information. Like if humanity can't get it together, AI will be getting it together for them. It will be your leaders. You will be led by AI, and that's not how AI is supposed to be carried out, in the sense of replacing humanity. It's supposed to be assistive. It's supposed to be a servant of humanity. When we're talking about servitude and services, and it's a service that's created to assist humanity. And because we're not understanding the role of servant and master, we're dealing with a certain level of confusion. Even with the government itself. The government is a servant of is a servant of humanity and of its citizens. And that's the reason why you have to get into what it means to be a servant and a master, and how no servant is greater than its master. The government should not be greater than the people, because the government in itself are servants. And if the people are dysfunctional, the government will be dysfunctional, because again, there's no servant greater than its master. You can't be a functioning government while the people are dysfunctional. One will profit more than the other. A functioning government will profit off of dysfunctional people. So this is how you understand the roles of servitude and those that are being served. Where you just see, my cat. You see my cat. I'm a servant of my cat. And if if my cat is dysfunctional, it's because of the servant. The servant is dysfunctional. And like I said, I have to change my cat's litter box. I have to feed my cat. I have to provide it with some sort of entertainment. Come on, dog. Dog, come on, bruh. Come on, dog. Come on, bruh. Come on, dog. You see, now you on my keyboard. But now you have laws that you create to keep your your service valid. You're stepping on keys that you're not supposed to be pressing. You can't do that. Now if I was a unjust servant, then I just let my cat do any and everything, which would lead to his destruction. Which I would leave him outside, and he would get into certain things, and there's prey, there's birds of prey that hunt animals like cats and other creatures, even small dogs, even sometimes big dogs. But you know, I wouldn't be a good servant to allow him to be subjected to that. So that's just for me to give you a certain example of how you know um, servants are hard to be. Servants are not something that's something to be looked at as a small thing, and it's actually an ability that's actually great to be a servant. you know then there's the abuse of servanthood, or servitude, which would be slavery, and we're not going to get into that. But you know AI is to be a servant. It's supposed to be a servant of humanity. And if because humanity has the ability to not want to serve, so you would have to create certain things that will serve, that it's not to take the place, but to be more of an assistant of humanity. So, the Bible was created out of the Word, because it out of the idea that God has given to man, and it was put into a book form, which would be a form of that intelligence placed into a book to give people, to be assistive to people, to give you a moral understanding, and a historical understanding of certain events where the Spirit of God has and gave way to a people, gave people instructions, and led people and guided people. So this is what the Bible is consistent of. So you have people that want to refute that, and even go on, even oppose it to and not just a disagreeing, but also a discrediting standpoint. So we go into the key concepts: omniscience, which God's perfect knowledge of all things, past, present, and future. God's presence, omnipresence, is God's presence everywhere in the universe. You have Psalms 139. The Psalms in the Bible highlights God's intimate knowledge and presence in the lives of individuals. And you have Proverbs 15, verse 3. The verse states that the eye of the Lord are in every place, keeping watch on both good and evil. Then you have the Jewish and Christian belief. These religions affirm God's omniscience and his awareness of all human deeds and thoughts. And you have Hebrews chapter 4, verse 13. This verse emphasizes that no creature is hidden from God's sight. So, you have, people watching, and you have cameras watching, which are, reflective of the ability of there to be, eyes and ears all over the place, which goes into the attribute of omnipresence. God is everywhere in the universe. So no creature is actually hidden from the sight of God, and all actions and everything that we do is being seen and recorded. And that brings us to, again, the digital aspect of a God, and how this is relevant on social media. What we do and what we say online is being recorded and being seen by any and everything that's watching. And it's not only being seen, but it's being made into a data the data of our preferences, our thoughts, ideas, and things that we are seeing online is being made into a, information source, and that source is being used to, track and monitor who and what we prefer and what we tend to discuss. And as you see, I've showed you on a few of my videos just the consistency of, the knowledge and the videos that are being shared on, Facebook in particular, and how it's just repetitive. It's repetitive. Every day that you go on there, it's the same exact thing. Same thing every day. It's nothing different. It's nothing different. And, that is reflective of what we prefer to see. What we are in the habit of seeing. So I wanted to talk about that because you see it, and you want to share and help others identify how this is being used as a means of being all seeing and all knowing and all understanding. Especially when there's something that they do call cookies, and it asks you, do you accept these cookies? This site, it uses cookies, and the cookies, like I said, is to track your activities, from this site to that site, so it'll have a better user experience, based off of your preferences. And if you don't understand certain technologies and technological words and uses, you will not see it from even a spiritual perspective. You would use your own understanding, which may be, a misunderstanding. But there is going to be some form of advanced intelligence that is going to supersede the intelligence of man, because there's always been a super advanced, a beyond advanced intelligence that man couldn't comprehend, and have, through the history of mankind, have fell short of the grace of incorporating into humanity. So that is going to be part of the judgment. The judgment of humanity is to be, I'm not going to say ran by AI, but AI is going to be instructive in, even the governments and the courts and all sorts of places where, there's supposed to be a certain level of servitude in those that are supposed to be served, where there has been mismanagement of that that concept. It will have to be, AI that's incorporated. This is where you have, police officers going out with body cam, is because, they had a lack of, truthfulness in their interactions with civilians. Civilians saying that, officers were being or using excessive force, or their testimony against theirs, and where at times, just because they was officers, they were, you know, in the right, or that they were the ones that was telling the truth and the civilians was telling the lie. And because of that, they incorporated body cam, and which is a form of, you know, all seeing and all knowing, you know, to have a camera that's recording my actions. So now you're not saying that, you know, this side or that side is right. The camera is not going to lie, you know. So the thing is, you know, man's inability to be truthful is going to prompt the necessity for there to be a digital God, you know, where God is not a man that he shall lie. And, you know, every man lies and God is the truth, you know. So that's the necessity of there to be an advanced intelligence that supersedes that intelligence of man, is because man's habitual ability to be false and lie. So there's going to be a necessity for there to be a digital form of what's known as that intelligence, you know. So I just wanted to share that because it's something that we actually are confronted with, you know. AI, you know, advanced intelligence or artificial intelligence that supersedes the intelligence of a people that has been, you know, that has allowed themselves to be dysfunctional because they are not understanding their role, you know, their role to be functional and their ability to function. So they're going to need instructions from something that is more functional, you know, to create a functional people. And, you know, that is not, you know, something that I'm not going to say the people wouldn't want to see, you know, or that it wouldn't be abused. It's just that, you know, humanity has to understand that they have a certain ability, and their ability is to be influential in the world, you know, especially in their communities and their relationships with their neighbors, and the civility, the civilness has to be, you know, absolute. And as opposed to self seeking, it has to be seeking collectively to obtain a certain level of peace, and and share that with those that they are around. This is something that, you know, we tend to sidestep, you know, when it's you know, self-seeking, you know, peace, because when you're amongst other people that are without peace, they can disturb your peace, and if you're not the one that's bringing peace to them, they will be the ones that's taking peace from you, you know. And that's just how it goes, you know. That comes from experience, you know, that comes from experience. But what we do see is that, you know, we can coexist, and if we can't coexist, then one will exist and the others won't, you know. One will exist and the others won't. So that's where we're trying to get to, you know, as a people. As a people, we're trying to get to a level of coexisting. And, you know, that is in Isaiah, you know, chapter 11. I believe chapter 11, verse 6. You know, I want to say is that, you know, where, you know, it's the necessity for us to coexist. And and that is the highest level of, it sees the picture, where they state that the wolf will walk with the lamb and the lion with its kids, and the calf, and it'll be led by a child. So they give you a depiction of what that's actually like, where we are all from different walks, but we have the ability to put our differences aside and be one, and led by a child, meaning that there's a certain level of innocence that has to lead, without malicious intent, that has to lead, but that's the level of peace that we have to obtain. And because we're not the ones that's bringing forth that level of peace and understanding, it's going to be ruled out by something that's artificial, because it's not a genuine. It's not going to be genuinely created. It's going to be artificially created. It's not off of our genuine intelligence that this is going to come about, but through artificial intelligence. And that's that's something to consider. When it comes to humanity, how come it's going to take something artificial to bring forth a genuine change, an authentic change to our instructions that was given to us, to when we go back to the book of Genesis, there were certain instructions that was given to mankind, and to this day we are still living adverse to those instructions, to the point where there's religions that surround them that want to enforce those commandments, but they still aren't even adhering to those commandments. When we're talking about even the Hebrew Israelites, when we're talking about Christianity, even Islam, we're talking about these religions, we're still categorizing those commandments inside of a religion, where if you're not Christian, then Christians aren't apt to be receptive. If you're not a Hebrew Israelite, then they're not active to be receptive, or inviting it as well. Even Islam, they're not inviting. If you're not a Muslim, then they normally won't invite you inside of their religion, or their circle of assistance. But that's just the way that I see it. I could be wrong, but that's from experience as well. You see what you see, and you understand what you understand, and that comes from experience. So that is something that I wanted to discuss about a digital God, and why that statement was stated by someone with superior knowledge of technology, and the advanced the direction of advanced technology that the average person really doesn't comprehend and wouldn't understand, because they're in a certain realm that prohibits that access to that knowledge. But like I said, it's all going to be based off of the knowledge that God is all knowing and all seeing, you know, and based off of our, our interest in understanding God more intimately, or our understanding of God on, even on a superficial level. That is what this is going to be, surrounding, that ability for, individuals to be known, or their thoughts to be known and their actions to be known. Like I said, it all goes back to the soul being created into a digital form. The soul being a digital thing. And if there's a digital God, there's going to also be a digital devil, one that's going to mislead you digitally for you to, respond and to react and to create, digital chaos, and digital destruction. And that's, always been, the goal of, the devil, is to make you fall from grace. So to bring disgrace where God is graceful, he's to bring disgrace, So we have to be aware of that alone, that if there's a digital God, there's also going to be a digital soul. And if there's a digital soul, there's going to be a digital, Satan. One that's there to mislead, one that is there to corrupt, So, yeah, just wanted to talk about that, and give a little bit of insight on that, because, this is something that, we see, especially as people that are what you call autonomous, that's what it means to have the freedom to govern yourself or control its own affairs. We are autonomous, and we have the freedom to allow, AI to exist or to allow AI to not exist. We have the ability to act in accordance to our moral duty rather than our own desires, which is another adjective. It's another definition of being autonomous, So with that, we can allow our moral duty to be secondary to our own desires, and being that we allow that to happen, our moral duties get pushed to the side, and our desires take the front seat. Which, when you go back to the story of Adam and Eve, that was the case, and another thing about that is, when it comes to science, science, when you have astrophysicists and astrotheologists, they don't see, they see things differently, where astrophysicists, they may look at the cosmos as, something of natural design, and astrotheologists see it as a divine design. And both of them, they can come to an understanding that it's up to the person that's interested, or I want to say that's it's up to the individual of how they see things, as opposed to them discrediting each other or trying to cancel each other out or rule each other out, because they are different views of seeing these things, um, that's something that we have to take into consideration. Like I said, when you're talking about the Bible can be even explained scientifically, and things scientifically can be explained biblically, but our inability to agree on certain things keeps us from looking at them that way, you know, you know. So, I wanted to share that, you know, I wanted to share that because it can help others understand that AI is going to be something that not even going to, it is something that is prevalent in our reality right now, and is going to be incorporated in the future, in a far more advanced, as it progresses, is going to be more advanced. When we're talking about supercomputers, we're talking about computers that supersede the ability of thought of man, of mankind, and is a complete replica of the super advanced intelligence of a God, an all-knowing and all-seeing God. So as they perfect it, it gets more relative, that it relates more to an all-knowing and all-seeing God. So we have to be mindful of what's being created and how it's being created, and before we allow anything to replace humanity, or even the all-knowing and all-seeing God, then we have to put it into its place of either being instructive or being destructive to humanity. And like I said, there's a digital soul now, from what's we are putting out online. There's a soul, and it's going to be reflective of an individual's, thoughts, ideas, and their preferences, and their preferences. So we have to be mindful of the thoughts and ideas that we are putting out online, and not put them out without any kind of thinking that they don't have an effect on our individual person, or who we are, So, good thoughts, good deeds. This is why you might see this symbol. This symbol is something that I've seen that represented that idea and that concept, good thoughts and good deeds. Sometimes we have to be mindful that we have to continue to put out good thoughts and good deeds, because our thoughts are recorded, and our deeds are recorded, if not by man, but by our moral, our personal morals, of what God gives us, and that's what the Bible was, founded on, our moral principle, and how we construct or strengthen our moral ethical code, and yeah. I know, I always try to find the words to say, and I just allow the that to just come as it is. Nothing is ever scripted, and even though you might want it to sound scripted, it's just not. That is what advanced technology is going to be used for. Is going to be used for those that want to find, an artificial form of instruction and intelligence, you know. But this isn't anything that's you know ungenuine. This is a genuine delivery. So this is why it comes off like that, and this is the only way that I can give it to you. I can, yeah, like I said, I can even write it down for you, and it'll come out, a lot better for you. It'll come out, but it won't come out the way that I would want it to be given to you, and you would want it to be authentic, because God is authentic. It's the authentic intelligence that all intelligence is based off of. You know, you have to understand that about God, that, you can't just come, intelligence doesn't come from, it doesn't just come from it comes out of intelligence. It comes from, a knowledge. It comes from just thought in itself. Man cannot just be created without thought. Everything that's here is a thought. It's perfect sense. Everything, and you can't refute that. You cannot refute it. It's unrefutable. The intelligence of God is unrefutable. It's unrefutable. Come on, bro. You stepping on my keyboard again, dog. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, dog. Come on, come on, dog. Come on, dog. Come on, come on, come on. See? They're intelligent. Cats are intelligent beings, So we cannot, downplay the magnitude of, what God is. Even trying to explain it, you would sound foolish trying to explain it, even if that's for the most intelligent people on this planet, to explain, how, insightful or intelligent and all-knowing and all. That's the only thing that we can say about God, is that God is all-knowing and all-seeing. But then again, I've stated that, artificial intelligence may be, it may be advanced, and it may have this super, ability to give you information, and to be informative, and to gather information from people, and to know the thoughts and ideas of people from, what it collects through cookies and, through our personal experiences online. But it's not the same as that that knowledge of God. So I just wanted to share that, and speak about that, and give that to the people, and hopefully it helps them, understand that, God can't be replaced. This is something you can't replace. You can't replace God, and you can't replace God's people. It's something that you cannot do. When you're talking about, replacing this one with that one, and this is, something that has went on in the history of humanity. They like to replace people with other things, and some people and some things cannot be replaced. God's children is always going to be God's children. They can only replace themselves by following other things and allowing other things to lead them. And the true children of God will always be that. They will always be that, and they wouldn't allow themselves to allow God to replace, God to be replaced by anything. Then there's others that, have personal desires, which they know that, go against their moral duty, and their moral obligation, you know, to you know, to be of a certain intelligence, which is of God, you know. But I just wanted to share that, you know, because some things, it needs to be shared and need to be discussed, and it needs to be discussed genuinely, because there's too much inauthenticity in our instruction, or even just discussing God. Is too much inauthenticity. It's too much unauthentic discussion about certain things, and that in itself goes into artificial intelligence. It's artificial. It's not authentic. So you just wanted to share that, because it needed to be shared. So peace.